Yes, welcome back. Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation, our deep dive with special guest, John Morgan. John Morgan. We talk about all kinds of things. John Morgan is he's preparing to launch a third political party, not a third, but a new political party in Florida, and toying with a run for governor. We talked about some of that last week. We also talk about faith. We have a very deep conversation about faith. We talk about what Democrats have done wrong and could do better. Yes, and of course, we talk about weed. What's the future of weed in Florida? Please join us for part 2 of a deeper dive with John Morgan.
Basically, Florida's losing. Danny's losing. Ron's losing. But the big loser is Florida.
You're listening to Deeper Dive with Dara, a podcast by the News Service of Florida. Let's dive in.
Let's talk about the teaching of history in Florida schools and college. You know, now there's teachers that are saying their Black history courses that they used to teach, they can't teach them anymore.
Well, I'd say this, first of all. Our education system is now just run by cronies. You know, they bring this senator from Nebraska who basically just fleeces the hell out of Florida.
Yeah.
I
think it's a requisite now, John, that you have to be a former legislator in order to be a college or university president in Florida.
So start with this. If I was governor, I would have educators leading our educational system.
But we don't.
But we don't. You know, and look, there are sections everywhere. John Thrasher was the right person for FSU.
Yeah, he was.
TK Weatherall, but I'm really good friends with Richard Corcoran, but I'd probably close New College.
Would you?
I just closed the motherfucker.
Right.
3,000 people down there. It used to be a school for hippies, and now they're trying to turn into Jerry Falwell South.
Yeah.
I just close it. The colleges are broke. We're teaching people stuff they don't need. I would make it Google University instead of the University of Florida. I'd teach them stuff. Look, they got courses. When I went there was stupid stuff. Theater appreciation.
Stop. I love theater.
I do too, but do you like sports? What about sports appreciation? What's
not
the
really
difference?
A big sports
and the argument's going to be, hey, we got to be cultured. Get cultured on your own.
Although I will say I am old enough to remember, because I was in school in community college in Florida at the time, you had to take 4 PE credits to graduate from college or university. And so I, of course, being the nerdy, literature person that I was, I waited until my last semester and I took scuba diving, billiards, bowling, and one other thing, all in the same semester.
Yeah.
All in the same semester.
And why should
Those are the only 3 I can remember.
Why should a foreign language be required?
I mean, we have a lot of people who speak different languages in Florida.
I know.
I don't feel like that's a bad thing in Florida.
It's not a bad thing, but if you think it's going to give you an advantage, go learn it. Go learn it. Don't make me look. I'm not good at language. I'm not good at math.
But you're not answering my question about what you would do about.
I just told you I would have educators leading our education system.
And so they could make decisions about what courses can be taught?
Yes, and I'd come in and have a real discussion about what courses should be eliminated. Do we need to have a course that I took at the University of Florida, The Meat We Eat?
Did you really?
Of course, because you got an A.
I think they would like to teach that now since we're banning fake meat.
I was in a high honors program, death and dying. One of our trip, we went to a morgue. We went to a morgue for a field trip one night. I still have nightmares about it. There's so much bullshit being taught in colleges that are really unnecessary. If I was the governor, I would tell a lot of kids, don't even waste your time on college if you're going to study this, because you don't need it. just go be a welder and don't get the student debt. Just go be a welder. College, except for engineering, math, all that, the stuff that I can't do, college is just an obstacle course. Can you get the 4 years? Can you take the SAT and get in? Okay, I got in. Can you get 4 years and get out? Okay, I'm out. Can you take the LSAT and get out? Yeah, I'm out. Now I'm in law school. It's like an obstacle course. But what are we learning? What are the skills and the things we learn that are transferable?
You're not learning. You're getting a piece of paper that allows you to practice is what you're doing.
Obstacle course. Okay. You got to go over, swing, swim, do all this. And now you get to the end. So I would come in and say, I'm going to build a university system that prepares us for the 21st century and the 22nd century. And it doesn't include the meat we eat, theater appreciation, death and dying,
billiards,
humanities, billiards, scuba diving, PE. Right. Look, PE.
They did away with that. That's not a requirement anymore.
Well, let me just say this about PE. Why does somebody have to be certified to be a PE teacher? Why do you have to be a degree person to be a PE teacher? Why do you have to go to college to do Duck, Duck, Goose and musical chairs? Look, you know what Woody Allen says about if you can't teach. If you can't teach PE. You don't need a college degree to teach PE. Okay. I'm sorry. Guess what? You don't need a 4-year degree to referee kickball.
All right. Well, I'm not going. I'll leave that there. Let me ask you, though, in terms of the governor's race, just a serious question for a moment. You know, Donald Trump is the GOAT in Florida and in the country. And I just wonder if his endorsement of Byron Donalds, the Congressman Byron Donalds, can be overcome in a statewide race in Florida, or his, fill in the blank, his endorsement of Byron Donalds or his endorsement of, Joe Schmo. But right now we're talking about Byron Donalds. We're talking about the governor's race. So can that be overcome? How big of a hill would that be to climb?
A huge hill for raising money. Mm-hmm. Because money follows what Trump says to do. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's insurmountable. And don't forget, Donald Trump oftentimes endorses two people. So I don't think it's over till the fat lady sings. I think Donald Trump could endorse Donalds and Matt Gaetz, for example. I think Donald Trump could endorse Wilton Simpson and Byron Donalds, for example. I don't know if he will. I don't think he'll endorse Casey DeSantis, because Donald Trump is all about loyalty. I mean, he is all about loyalty. He made Ron DeSantis governor, 100%, and he sees that as this DeSantis is treacherous. So that's not going to happen. But I think you can. And look, how popular is Donald Trump going to be in a year from now in politics?
Yeah. It's a big question. It's a big question because, people are going to start hurting. Walmart just today, I believe, as we're recording this on Thursday, announced they were going to be raising prices because of tariffs. So people are going to feel things in their pocketbook, that might change a little bit of their...
Just here's the thing that I always think about in history, how fast things change. Winston Churchill saved the Western world and was voted out of office almost immediately afterwards.
Yeah. Winston Churchill is an object lesson for these times, true.
Right. I mean, Winston Churchill saved the world, and they voted him out.
A lot of them hated him, though, for a long time.
But listen, do you think Ted Cruz likes Donald Trump? Do you think, how many people in Tallahassee do you think likes Ron DeSantis? How many legislators?
I have a lot of thoughts about that. I don't want to totally alienate the DeSantis administration, but I will say that people close to the administration, there are not that many people that he is close to.
You think 10% of the Florida House likes him?
I think there's a lot of transactional relationships in Tallahassee,
but what's happened is
and a lot of performative.
He's made them bend the knee for 7 years.
They're tired.
And at a certain point, you want to take the damn knee pads off.
Well, Danny Perez did that. And how's that working out for him right now?
For Danny?
Yeah.
But how's it working out for DeSantis?
We're in a stalemate now.
Basically, Florida's losing. Danny's losing. Ron's losing. But the big loser is Florida. What happened this year that benefited the people of Florida?
I've been asking that question of people on the show after the legislative session. They didn't pass many bills. DeSantis said today he's going to veto I don't know if you saw this, it's relatively new news. He's going to veto the Med-Mal bill.
Right to kill.
Right. So
think about that. He's saying, I'm going to allow people to be killed because of jackpot justice. I'm going to allow.
Okay, so you did hear it. Yeah.
I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But his coffers are filled by the insurance industry. And he sees trial lawyers as his enemy.
Yeah.
He's willing to kill the baby to kill the trial lawyers. He's willing to kill his own people to hurt the trial lawyers. The trial lawyers have been dealing with this since Jeb Bush enacted it. And it's unfair. It passed with 93% of the bodies. The question is what kind of man is Ben Albritton going to be? What's he going to do?
I don't think they have the votes to do an override. You're right. Because that's what you're saying is, will they override it?
They passed it with a supermajority.
I know they did.
So what are they going to do?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
So they're going to say, we're going to allow free kills. And they're going to say, because insurance rates are going to go up. Have you ever seen insurance rates go down after tort reform? Never. They lie, they hide, and look, they're in business to make money, and they got more money than all of us, the insurance industry. I mean, we're nothing compared to them. And Ron, I think, still believes falsely that he has a shot to be president.
Do you think he does?
Do you? I don't think so. I think you have to have a perch to raise money off of. I think you have to be in a position.
I think he lacks something. I'll just say it. I've said it before, but I think he lacks something that is a critical element for a national office holder. And Donald Trump has it in trumps, and that's charisma. I think he is very pugnacious. That's okay. Donald Trump is pugnacious. But I just don't think he has the demeanor and the temperament that will attract enough people to him to get him into the White House. I could be wrong. Like you say, things change very quickly, and I could be wrong.
Look, he's a very smart guy. Went to Harvard.
He's very smart.
He got in.
Although he disparages them all the time now, by the way.
Because the playbook is to be against the elites.
Of course.
But all the people in Tallahassee, and I'm talking about the Republicans, here's what they say to me. Ron is autistic at some level. He's on a spectrum at some level. And by the way,
they said that about Rick Scott too.
They said about Rick Scott. They said so. Look, and he might be
okay. Whatever.
But there's a spectrum. But there's a spectrum. Bill Gates is on it. Steve Jobs is on it. There's a lot of really Elon Musk. Hell, he's on it. But here's the point: they don't have emotional IQ. They don't feel.
That's what I'm talking about is charisma.
Well, there's charisma, but there's also compassion.
Empathy.
When you empathy, there's no empathy.
As though you lack empathy.
It's like to say we're going to have free kill, in calling it free kill, but we're going to allow it to happen so that the worst doctors get a free kill, so that their rates won't go up. Their rates shouldn't go up; they should be out. Because listen, when you look at the facts, because I'm in this business, it's a few of the same doctors doing it over and over and over again. And if you bring some old person in without a wife, they're not going to get the same care because they're not going to be as worried about, they got nothing to worry about. But again, he lacks empathy.
I wanted to talk a little bit about something that you said. I want to talk about the ballot initiatives the changes that are in the courts that was the reason why I couldn't be with you yesterday at Tiger Bay. But you said something that really struck me as interesting, and I wanted you to elaborate on it. You said, every day you wake up, you believe differently. I wanted you to tell me what that means to you. You mean that as you're aging or you're experiencing more things, that you see life different. I mean, I don't want to give you an answer, but it struck me as something that I wanted to explore today in our conversation.
Well, what it means is I'm running out of time. When the Pope is your age, you're like, fuck. I'm the same age as the Pope now. That blew me away. Hmm. And when you look at them all, you're like,
they're old guys.
Me?
They're old guys.
They're old guys.
Right.
They're old guys. And look, I've spent a lot of time thinking about, life everlasting. Is it true? Is it really going to happen? I pray all the time, so I must believe it. But I'm still, kind of, is it really true? But I try to lead my life exactly as if there is a God. And I believe when you do that, what you're called to do is to serve other people. That when you see other people, that's where God lives. And so in my journey, I've tried to do things, raising the minimum wage. Mm-hmm. What that meant in dollars and cents to so many families is gigantic. Medical marijuana, the food bank that we did. I'm building a food bank in Appalachia right now. Mm. We're doing a wing for the Coalition for the Homeless for women and children, but I'm writing checks, or my wife's writing the checks, and I'm glad to do it because I don't even feel it. Mm-hmm. And I think that if there's a God, that when you get there, he's going to say, listen, man, I gave you a lot. What'd you give me? Because when you do it for people, that's where God lives.
Do you really think, this is so interesting to me. Do you really think that there's an entity, God, that after you die in your physical body, that you will encounter in some, either a corporeal way or intellectual way, or what? How do you envision that conversation with God taking place after you die?
Well, first of all, you start using big words like corporeal on me. I'm from Kentucky, so don't throw curveballs.
Bullshit.
Okay, so anyway, here's how
a physical presence.
I don't know. Listen, do I believe in God 100%? No. Do I pray to believe in God 100%? Yes. What am I? 7? The things that make me believe maybe it's true is the lives of the apostles after the resurrection. I'm Catholic. We know he lived. We know whether you're an atheist or not, Jesus lived. Jesus was crucified. Jesus died. And then it gets to...
There, I'm with you.
We're all together then. Then it gets down to Lord, liar, lunatic. Which one? Who is he? Lord, liar, lunatic. Pick your poison. The reason I choose to believe Lord is because these apostles, who we also know were with him, and we also know many of them denied him during the life, that after he died, all these men fanned out on foot, walking to Ethiopia. Shit, I won't walk up to the Wawa from my neighborhood here. They walked on foot, and every single one of them died a martyr except for John. Peter, who denied him the night before, was crucified upside down in Rome. For me, I hang on that a lot. I went to Israel. I wanted to see it all. I walked the thing. I went to the Gethsemane. I went to the tomb. I walked the path of the cross. I went to the upper room. Some of it might be, I went to Bethlehem. I did it all. I want to see it. And for me, the lives of the apostles after the resurrection or after his death is the evidence that I hang my hat on. And then the other thing that I tell my children when they were little, when they would say, was there a God or is it the Big Bang Theory? The Big Bang Theory goes like this. if you took a Swiss watch and deassembled it and put it in a bag and shook it up for trillions and trillions and trillions and zillions of years and opened it up, would the watch ever be assembled, ticking with a face on it? And my kids would say, no, Daddy, no. I said, how would you fix the watch? And they said, you'd have to go to a watchmaker. The watchmaker, to me, is God. I don't know how probable the Big Bang is for all this complicated, just the human body, just the sun, just the moon. It's also, why isn't the sun crashing in on us? When I'm in Hawaii, I'm like, how did all this happen? The magnificence of Earth. So I don't know. And if I don't know, Bill Gates is an atheist. And what he says is this: for those who don't believe, Bill Gates says just the golden rule.
Hedge your bets.
I'm hedging my bets.
So if
it is true, I certainly want my scorecard to be, number one, I kept praying for faith. I prayed to God every night. Every night I say an act of contrition. I say an Our Father. And then I have a prayer. It doesn't take that long. It's like, and then I got a prayer list of people who are sick that I pray for every night. And then as the gummy starts to take effect, and I really relax. But that's my ritual.
Let me ask you about your faith and how that would impact you as governor if you were elected governor. My colleague is on his way to cover an execution at Florida State Prison this evening. I have witnessed executions. I have said that I won't do that anymore. It's not something I care to participate in. But, as the media, we have an obligation to monitor these things. So would you sign death warrants if you were governor? I have spoken to other people who have toyed with running for governor before, and they have said that they would not because their faith, their belief in the sanctity of life was on both ends, anti-abortion and also in opposition to the death penalty. The Catholics are out there protesting every time there's an execution.
Here's what I think. Like that kid who shot up everybody at FSU, I'd rather him sit in prison for the rest of his life than be executed. I think we're doing him a favor by executing him.
So would you sign a death warrant?
Well, I'd have to think about that a long time because I have to think about the will of the people and my duty and what's my role. What are the people? I don't know. I'd have to really think about it. If they killed my daughter, I'd kill them my fucking self.
Do you support the right to an abortion?
Yes.
Okay. But you don't personally advocate?
No, and my wife was general counsel for Florida Right to Life for 10 years when she practiced. She's
talking about that.
So I believe in choice.
Right.
And I believe that to bring a child in that's not wanted is terrible. And I asked my wife once, I said, let me ask you a question. When these children are aborted, what happens to them? And she said, well, they go to heaven. And I said, didn't they win the lottery? Look, here's your choices, fetus. Be born, go to a crack den, probably go to prison, and probably do a lot of bad shit. Or never be born and go right to heaven. What do you want to be? Because we're here to get to heaven. For the people who are pro-life, we're here about getting to heaven. They go to heaven. And so when I talk about the law on that, we already have a law about abortion and killing. It's one of the commandments, thou shalt not kill. It's something for a woman and her conscience and her God.
Okay, I get it.
And if she makes a mistake, but I don't think that we bring these unborn children into the world, hellholes. By the way, if you read a book called Freakonomics, they talk about, and there's a lot of debate about this, they talk about 18 years after Roe v. Wade is when violent crime started drastically dropping. Why? These unwanted children who were brought into the world unwanted, into these crack dens, these hellholes, they learned to be criminals. So, is there a limit on it? Yeah. There's got to be a certain,
Okay. I just thought that the death penalty the death warrant.
The death penalty is, like I said,
to me, and
if somebody did something to somebody I love, I got to put myself in that person's, because I know this: if somebody killed one of mine, I think I would be personally capable of killing them.
And we'll be right back with John Morgan. Moffitt Cancer Center is a comprehensive cancer center serving all of Florida. Moffitt is dedicated to advancing patient care with groundbreaking research and therapies delivered directly to patients' bedsides. From superior survival rates to innovative treatments shaping the future of healthcare, Moffitt offers the highest level of diagnosis, treatment, and personalized care. At Moffitt, patients experience life-saving outcomes that surpass national averages. Discover how Moffitt is defining the future of cancer care. Visit moffitt.org/impact to learn more. Divas, you know what time it is. It's that time. It is that time. Your moment of zen. The news in haikus. The news in haikus. Pot Daddy Part 2, a kaleidoscope of quotes, hits all the high notes. That's the news in haikus, divas, the news in haikus. Don't forget, we'd love to hear your haiku. You can slide them into my DMs, or you can send them to podcasts, that's podcasts with an S, at e.newsserviceflorida.com. Wherever you're listening, please don't forget to subscribe and give us a rating if you like what we're doing. And we're back with John Morgan. So let's take a little break with a few fun questions, since we went really heavy there for a moment. Okay. And then I want to talk about the ballot initiatives and pot. Okay, Crocs, yay or nay?
Who?
Crocs.
The shoes?
Yes.
All my grandchildren wear them and I hate them.
Okay, so nay. You're nay.
Nay.
Okay. What do you?
They're lazy. It makes you lazy. Tie your fucking shoes. Put tennis shoes on. Tie your fucking shoes. You got Crocs?
I got leopard print Crocs, so I'm just showing him. I'm showing off.
Leopard skin stuff it tells me something about the person. You know what it tells me?
What?
You know what it tells me? You're frisky.
Frisky.
People who wear leopard skin and animal prints, you see them, they woke up frisky.
Okay. Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America?
Could care less. Okay. But it doesn't matter.
Audiobooks or paper books?
Kindle.
Me too. Okay. All right. Let's talk about ballot initiatives. They changed the rules. They got pretty darn close to recreational last year. Very significant changes. They're being challenged in court right now. What do you think about this new law and the challenges? And do you think that will get on the ballot next year? And if it does, do you think it'll pass?
I always bet on Kim Rivers. She's a beast.
She is a beast.
And I love her. And it's going to happen. And look, by the way, ironically, Donald Trump could overnight just wave a magic wand.
By rescheduling.
The rescheduling. Donald Trump.
But they sounded like they were going to, and now I feel like they've pulled back on that a little. What's the latest with that? You would know.
These old donors. It's these old men, these old billionaires who had kids that were fucked up on drugs, and they blame it as a gateway drug. They really need to blame themselves because they are away from the house, not watching their kids and not drug testing their kids. But you know, that guy what was the guy named here in
Mel Sembler. Mel Sembler.
Yeah, Mel Sembler. You know, he had that house of horrors that we brought kids to. I mean, it's like something out of, a bad movie with, Sean Penn or something as the warden. It will pass. Every day a baby's born and every day an old man dies, it gets better chances. I couldn't move Joe Biden on it. I spent a lot of time talking to him. But Joe Biden looked at Hunter Biden and goes, that's where it all started. No, that's not where it all started.
Oh,
it all started with Boone's Farm and Ripple and MD 2020. It didn't start with marijuana. And by the way, would you rather have somebody smoking marijuana or drinking wild turkey? So it's going to be one day, it's going to be like gay marriage. We're going to look around, what? They're married now? Okay, well.
You brought up President Biden, and I believe, I don't know if we talked about it before, you're close friends with his brother, I believe,
Frank,
with the family.
Yeah, Frank, I'm close friends with him.
The family.
He stayed with me in Hawaii once.
So this new book just has come out about how everybody was covering up for Joe Biden's decline. You were attending state dinners or whatever with him. What do you say about what Biden's cognitive and physical situation was? Was he fit to seek re-election?
As I look at it now, no. Now listen, I own senior living homes in Florida. I own memory units in Florida.
Okay.
The thing about dementia is it sneaks up on you. Yeah. It's like, Mom, I think I'm going to have to get your keys. And you're like, what are you talking about? And you're talking to them, and they seem normal. They seem like, Mom, what are you talking about, my keys? What do you want me to do? You want me to touch my nose? What are you saying I can't remember?
Yeah.
Mom, I'm just seeing things. Now, the person with the person, they see things that we don't see. When I would go to the White House, I would walk in and he'd be standing there with his arms outstretched. Now, he had his arms outstretched to George Clooney, didn't know who the fuck he was. He said, this is George. George who? He said. So I would come in, I'd say hello, he'd say hello, we'd take a picture, we go sit down, he'd make remarks, and then the State of the Union address seemed perfectly fine. But the people who knew were the people inside every day, because that's when you start seeing this slipping. Right. And anybody listening to this podcast who's ever watched Ronald Reagan say goodbye to America, it starts, and by the way,
or if you've ever experienced that with a family member or a friend. I'm going through this right now with a dear friend of mine.
We went through it with my wife's mother, and when we started trying to get the keys.
Yeah, I did that with my grandfather too. It was horrible.
We probably let her drive to, listen, I hired people to surveil her. Yeah. So I want a video, but she wasn't fucking up. When every time you go, she drove to the Publix fine.
My grandfather didn't speak to me for 4 weeks. I took it. He was 98 years old. He was still driving, having accidents. And
you know how we finally got to it? The lady who did her hair called my wife and said, your mother is not your mother anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I was having people video her, and they'd come back and go, she drove perfectly to Publix. And
that's
so
crazy.
I didn't even have a video to show her going up over a curb.
So you're saying that it was not the kind of thing that you could see necessarily when you just saw him every now and then, but the people who dealt with him every day knew and should have done something or stepped in.
The reason they
certainly didn't, his wife
they were making money. Listen, they're already coming at Jill.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jill enjoyed being first lady. Jill was coming to cabinet meetings. The last dinner I had, which was the final dinner at the White House, Jill was on the podium at the end, not him, Jill.
Was that because he was unable to do it?
You tell me.
No, you tell me. You were there.
I think he was unable to do it.
Yeah.
I think she liked being on stage. And listen, here's where the real danger for him. Who's going to give money to his library? I bet he never has a library now because people are so pissed off.
Well, that would be tragic.
I don't think he'll have a library.
Don't you think that would be tragic or not?
Yeah, well, listen, because he's a fantastic human being. When his brother came to Hawaii, I said, Frank, Joe walks like Tim Conway used to walk on the Carol Burnett show.
And then most of our divas aren't old enough to remember that, but I remember that. I remember that. I do remember that.
And I said, and he goes, well, he has the same thing my Uncle Frank had. He has this neuropathy.
They said about the foot. I know. Always. Okay. Yeah.
But guess what? Perception is a reality. He's infirmed. He's Sleepy Joe. He's, falling down. And what we will find out, the real question is going to be, what's going to be his condition at the end of this 4 years?
You know what? I think he was much more fragile at the beginning of his administration than we even are aware of now.
We know for a fact that Ronald Reagan was in the throes of dementia at the end of his pregnancy, but presidency. And we know that Nancy Reagan was a nut job. I mean, Nancy Reagan was dealing with astronomers to deal with his travel.
I know.
It's like, hey, let's get the Ouija board out and see if we should go to Europe.
All right. Well, speaking of Democrats, what do you think are the biggest, and then we're going to wrap up because I can't keep you all night, but I am having a ball and you'll have to come back and do it again. What are the biggest mistakes the Democrats, I think you hit on this, but any particular mistakes that the Democrats have made that you think they could be doing differently?
Yes, I think they should have an open primary, make the tent bigger for starters. Mm-hmm. I think they should say it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I think they need to look at people like Jared Moskowitz, who's smart, capable, instead of, some fringe to far, far left. We can't talk about Andrew Gillum anymore, but I found it interesting.
You can talk about Andrew Gillum.
Oh, well, he finished it off, and he could have won, but he kept the $2 million. You know who was at his party, the victory party, the night he lost? Puff Daddy. Isn't that ironic? He was there. What's that mean? But I'll leave that to your listeners.
Okay.
But the Democrats have to say, look, we have to move more towards the center, because when you start to defend transgender swimmers, you lose so many people. And guess who gets hurt? Yeah, transgender swimmers get hurt, but you know who gets chewed up in the process? The LGBT community as a whole.
Yeah.
Because the people start lumping transgender swimmers into LGBT. It's like, don't do that. Because now they're after gays.
It's a conundrum.
They just lump them all into one. Hey, they're all the M&Ms. It's the gays, it's the lesbians, it's the trannies, it's the they're all bad.
We don't call them trannies.
What do we call
them? Transgender.
That's what the Republicans call them, trannies.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you, what's something people don't know about you that would surprise them?
That I cry easily.
Oh, you're like Ben Albritton. Ben Albritton is a crier. I'm a crier. I see a card, a Christmas card or a birthday card, and I can't help it. I looked it up the other
day. I don't like that I'm a crier. I like it that I don't like it. I like it because I think it means that I have empathy. Mm-hmm. I looked it up the other night because I was laying in bed. I'm like trying to figure out, why do I cry? And what I found was this thing called hypersensitivity. You're a hypersensitivity.
That's me.
And these people, and 1 out of 5 people, I cry at movies. Music can make me cry.
So what is it that, so there's a label for it, but what is it from? I think I figured out what I am.
I think, and I hope it's empathy.
I feel like mine is because I was an orphan, and I think that it was like a survival mechanism. I think that when you cry, people do things for you and take care of you. When you're a child, when you're a child.
I didn't cry as a kid. Listen, I had a bad deal. Both my parents were drunks. We lost everything many times. It was a real shit show. But I look back, I had a great time because I was always making money. I had a paper out. I always had jobs. But when you are hopeless and powerless and helpless, those are the worst 3 things in the world. And I was that for a long time.
Yeah.
So I feel, why are my charities food, water, clothing, medical? Because that was what I needed. And I believe that bad luck that I had turned out to be my best luck, because it means I feel that I have humanity. That's what I hope it is. And that I have empathy, and that I really feel. I see people on the street, and I used to tell my kids, I always, stop money. And I used to tell my kids, just remember this. That lady, that man, once upon a time was a little boy, a little girl. He's 5 years old. He went to this park. He swam. He got on the swing. He had ice cream. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be there. And always give them money. And if you say, hey, they're just going to go get drunk, let them get drunk. I don't care. Give them a reprieve, because they're not going to ever have a good life. And so the last thing I ask people when they interview with me for a job, I'll tell them, there's no right answer here. What do you value more? mercy or justice. And I would say 80% of the time people say justice.
Oh, really? Because my answer was going to be mercy.
The state attorneys say justice. The public defenders say mercy. And
so I'm a bleeding heart liberal, I guess.
And look, I'm in the justice business.
Yeah.
Justice and mercy really go together.
They do.
But I'm a mercy guy because there's a lot of shit that happened that shouldn't have happened, a lot of things out of people's control. At the end of the day, life is luck. And we make 1,000 left turns and right turns and U-turns in a lifetime. And one different turn changes everything. Once upon a time when I was at Florida Law School, I decided to clear my head. And I went to church in the middle of the week. And I go to church on a Wednesday. And I didn't go there to, I went there just to kind of chill and think. And I'm not a daily mass guy. And I get up to go to communion. And as I'm heading down to get my communion, I look ahead of me and I see, the greatest set of legs and rear end that I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, who is this girl? And then she turns and I see her face. And I went after church and said, can I meet you? And what's your name and what's your number? And her name was Ultima Degnet.
I didn't know that you met your wife in church.
I met my wife in church on a daily mass, and I didn't go. I don't go to daily mass. But that day, that one day, I think about this all the time, about my life, these one things that happened. When I got my job, my dad called me. He says, hey, because I only applied to personal injury firms. I was offered jobs in big firms around the state. Mark Hulsey wanted me to come to Smith & Hulsey. I was president of Florida Blue Key at the University of Florida. He wanted me to come there. I said, all I want to do is do PI. Why? I told him what happened to my brother. I said, I want to come back and get these motherfuckers. And so I only applied to PI firms. And my dad called me one time. He said, hey, I went to the car wash and I was vacuuming my car out. And I can't even ever imagine him vacuuming his seats. But he did. And he goes, there was one of your resumes got down between the seats. And he says, do you want me to send it out? I said, who's it to? He said, the guy's name is Jared Billings. I said, send it out. We already got a stamp on it. What do we lose? Guess where I got my job? Jared Billings. One left turn, one right turn, one car wash, vacuuming. And so the way I look at that, Dara, is this. Life is 99% luck. And I have landed here, and I don't even know how it happened. I don't know how I got all this money. I have another thing that I have, which is called, I'm a catastrophic thinker, and I have imposter syndrome, because I'm like, I don't really know how this happened. And people are going to figure me out. They're going to figure out I'm not a genius. I'm just a damn lucky motherfucker.
Well, stop telling them you don't know what corporeal means, and maybe they won't say that.
Sometimes I play dumb.
I know you do. I know. You're a brilliant mind. Is there anything else you'd like to add? It's been a treat talking to you and spending time with you again. Anything you'd like to add to our conversation that you'd like our listeners to know?
Just know that John Brian Morgan, my namesake, who's 10 years old, is going to win the championship tonight at Ward Field in Winter Park.
All right. And stay tuned and get ready to submit your name for this new party. All right. Well, good luck at the game tonight.
All right.
We'll all be cheering for him. Okay. Bye, John.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Deeper Dive with Dara, a podcast by the News Service of Florida. Hosted by News Service senior writer Dara Cam and produced by me, Mike Exline. Music for the podcast was recorded by Periodic Labs, LLC.